a lot of times on the ballots in Texas, we only have Republican and Libertarian. So unless you just skip it and don't vote, a lot of people will choose between the Republican and Libertarian candidates. Did we go over this? I felt like we did. I don't know. Who knows? I have dreams about lecturing at times. So, um, if you've heard, if you have heard this before, I'm sorry. All right. Um, as we look at who identifies with the parties and things like this, you can look at in terms of gender, in terms of age, right? Who identifies and who claims to be an independent and things like that. But those stars are supposed independents. And in terms of race, you see these here as well. Um, and when you look at Hispanic, you see what I mean? It's not a block vote, right? It's not like the black vote, right, which becomes one race of people altogether, right? I try to explain this to students over and over again that that the black vote is a block vote, and the Asian vote is also a block vote as well because there's a large number of Asians that vote together in elections, right? And as you can see, um, there's also a breakdown when it comes to money and an amount of money that you make each year. Um, da 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 da. Um, so before I get into this, because I don't want to do it twice. Have you seen this slide before?
No,
Okay,
I
so
don't.
the platform here in 2012 was basically an interesting platform. Remember, the party, I told you how it goes, right? We start at the precinct and we vote on these things, and they sort of move up each level to the county and into the state, into national, whatever, and it becomes a platform of the party. And one of those things in 2012 was gay marriage and things like this. And here in Texas, we had folks suggesting reparative therapy. If you've never heard of this, it's essentially, you know, it's for mostly men, I guess. That's what they would talk about, right? Where you go to like a dude ranch or something like that. I don't know. And they repair you if something's wrong with you and you happen to be gay, if you got a defect. So you go there and they fix that gay defect and you come back straight. And now you can live a normal life and everything else, right? Now, the thing is, I'm sorry, people, these are not my words. So don't be upset with me here or anything like this. But I don't know if you all have actually heard of this here. And at one point in time, you could use Medicaid to have this treatment done. Michelle Bachmann, who ran for president in 2008, I think, she proposed this. She put forth this bill and stuff because her husband apparently went through this and he was gay, and he got fixed. And if that's at least that's how she put it. So hey, the platform of the party is not helpful at time for you when you're at the top of the party trying to represent the party. And a lot of times you'll hear these people say, I don't represent the platform. That's the party's platform. That's not my platform. That's not how I feel about it. And people are 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 uh, people will um there are interesting things that can make it on the platform, right? And as you can see there, under bilingual education, we encourage non-English speaking students to transition to English within 3 years. Now, we have ESL classes to teach students English and things like that. Um, but, the interesting part of this is that, we're the only, it's that old joke, right? If you speak two languages, what does that make you? It makes you bilingual. What if you speak three languages? What did it make you? What if you speak three languages? What does that make you?
Trilingual.
What if you speak one language? What does that make you, Clark?
I mean, monolingual.
An American. There we go. So that's the
I knew you were
that's
heading
the
that way.
that's the joke. That's the joke. We we have no we take no pride in trying to even learn other languages, right? We go to other countries and speak slowly and loudly because they'll understand us then in English, you know. So it's that thing right there where, you know, I don't know. I think expanding your mind is a great thing, but yeah, that's the old joke. You speak two language, bilingual, three language, trilingual, one language, American. So there we go. Um, Billy Carr. So Billy Carr, we know about her, right? She is a lady who went up to Alan Shivers and told him how she felt about her, and he was like, "Lady, I don't care how you feel. I got the state in the palm of my hand." And she said, "Okay, we'll see about that." And the interesting thing with her, right? The most important part about her, if we're looking at her and what she did, she went out and she basically took the Democratic Party from the conservatives. Now the conservatives, you know, she got them to vote for Jimmy Carter, a peanut farmer. Now he's from Georgia, so maybe, you know, he could be, you know, one of us, you know, conservatives down here in Texas, but he's not, right? He clearly was not one, right? And she got them to do that, and ultimately the conservatives said, "That's fine. If you want the party, take it. You can have it. But I bet you one thing, you won't win another election here." And hey, they're right. Yeah. Yeah, he was right. Those guys were right because they haven't won much since. But all in all, you know, she told Bill Clinton how she felt about him, so she didn't really care. Like, you know, Billy Carr was a, you know, she was a beast in terms of, you know, of grass roots, you know, a campaigning, you know, Billy Carr, um, Karl Rove, these kind of people. I really, really, really respect these folks because they're able to get out there and get people to the polls and convince people to come run and convince people to, you know, to get out there and knock on doors and stuff like this and phone bank. This was hard work, right? It was no, you know, we don't have the technology that we have now and things like this. This is knocking on doors daily, getting people out, going from place to place, and convincing people to spend their extra time after working to get out there and work. And I've always respected, you know, like I said, her and Karl Rove for that amazing, you know, ability to get people to go. This is why Obama, you know, won Iowa. He went to, I remember Obama, he was reelected and he was speaking in Illinois. He was talking and he invited the people who had started with them. And he was like, you know, I'm still upset about those two houses and that, no, those two businesses and that house or those two houses and that business or something like that. I forgot how he worded it, right? But basically, his staff, his campaign team had knocked on every freaking door in Iowa and every business except two houses and one business or two businesses and one house or something like that. That they were everywhere, right? This is how you win, right? The grassroots movement, the groundwork, knocking on doors, just like Patrick Rose was doing. I'm telling you, this is what it's all about. And as you can see, I'm getting fired up as a former precinct chair who used to knock on doors while in college and stuff and write all this stuff down. So, so this is good work and this is how you do it. It does not matter what folks are doing. We've seen this over and over again. A nice name is great, but if you live in an area where there are a lot of new people moving in and stuff, especially like up there in this area, there's a lot of people who've never heard of these folks in office, and you can go in and just snatch you a seat away from anybody if you get out there and knock on enough doors. Um, and then we had Reverend Criswell, who, you know, who was a very powerful speaker as well. You know, who put out there, explain how, you know, HIV was started, basically all based in one, you know, it came from, you know, gay people and things like this. Powerful person, a very influential person, and he sort of worked closely with many of our leaders, our Texas delegation, in the Congress and things like that. So he heavily influenced him along with the Hunt family and others. They helped to increase um, uh, conservatives to get out there to the polls to vote and things like that. Really, really, really going at people like John F. Kennedy and others and things like that. Um, and we saw that even on the day that he showed up and was killed. People had been against him. The Dallas newspapers were against him. The Dallas newspaper and these other newspapers wrote many things about him because he was Catholic. They didn't want him there. It was no reason for you to win. If you win, then who's going to be in control? Is it going to be Kennedy or is it going to be the Pope? Right. And as they said, if Kennedy wins, then the tentacles of Catholicism will reach out and infect us all. Especially in a state like this, a very Protestant state, we saw that influence from the conservatives, and that fear, I guess, mongering as well when it came to Catholicism. And a lot of that stuff is used, which is, good stuff to use when you're out in the campaign because people don't go out to vote because of love. They go out to vote because of anger and fear. And, once you learn that, then you'll be a great person to get out there and campaign and stuff. It's so bad, I know, but it is what it is. All right. Da, 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 da. Interest groups. All of these are interest group. And as we know, the most powerful interest group in Texas is the NRA. It's right down there, right? Um, you don't have to write that down because you should all know that the NRA is the most powerful interest group in Texas. I know what it's not. It's not the Sierra Club, the tree huggers. So I'm assuming that they call them tree huggers because they put their arms around a tree and chain themselves to it. It looks like they're hugging it. And someone walks up with with something and cut the chains off and then cut down the tree. So that's basically how that goes. Um, so we talked about political parties, right? Now we're on the interest group, and political parties are different from interest group, right? Because political parties want their people in office. If I get my person in office, right? Hey, if John is my candidate, if I get John in office, he's gonna push our party's a platform. There we go, John, right? We go push the platform. Now, if I am just an interest group, right? I'm going to give money to John. I'm going to give money to Clark. I'm going to give money to also D because you know what? At the end of the day, whoever wins, you all know I gave you money. So please leave me alone. Please don't give me any sort of regulations and things like that. Now, I might give more to one over another, right? Because would rather have them, but I'm gonna give money to all these people. And you saw this, like when Hillary and Trump were both running against each other. Like you see some of the same companies overlapping each other and giving money and stuff like that, and giving 15 million to Hillary and 15 million to Trump, right? Because we're like, hey, at the end of the day, I gave both y'all money. Please leave me alone. Because that 15 million is a drop in the bucket that you're gonna lose, knowing that if a president comes in who you've given money to the wrong side, it's probably going to cost you 2 to 3 to 400 million dollars. So I give you the $15 million so you know I'm with you and stuff. So these interest groups, right, are groups of people that come together to be heard and to influence the government programs and policies. And these could be individuals, it could be businesses, it could be organizations. Right, think about it like this here, right? If Alex is worth $23 billion, then he has two people in his interest group, him and his checkbook. You see, that's his interest group, right? He's a whole interest group himself. But then in others, you actually need people because you don't have money. So you need to get more people in there to sort of help out. And now that becomes an interest group as well. Or it can just be McDonald's, right? Who wants less, regulations, or Walmart, things like that. So there we go. Interest groups clearly get out there and convince people to vote for things, to vote for folks. They go out there. And as you can look out there, right, I have right there to educate and mobilize voters. So the educate is kind of interesting. You know, they're going to educate in a way where it benefits them. AARP is going to put out something and tell you, look, man, this candidate here is not helping us. Look, this candidate is helping us. We, you know, if you want to keep these things, if you want to keep the old jitterbug phone, you probably want to vote for this guy over that guy, right? So, you know, all kinds of things like that. All right. Um, a lot of ex-lawmakers have become lobbyists. As you can see here, I have because they're familiar with the legislative process. They're also friends with other lawmakers. I don't really know if they're policy experts, right? You know, being able to put forth a bill that you probably didn't even write, that a company, a corporation who has given you, you know, tens of thousands of dollars has handed over to you. And then you take that bill and you put it in the hopper or whatever, and now that bill is being voted on. I don't know if that really makes you an expert, right? It makes you an expert in walking bills and submitting them, but I don't know if it makes you an expert. And you know, I don't really have a lot of uh, I don't have an issue with members of Congress, but I also know that we have an area in the House and an area in the Senate called House Research and Senate Research, where we have people who are there who do most of the research for the members of Congress. Um, and when they come out talking to you and talking to the American people and to Texans about what's going on and giving these long speeches and stuff, that research was done by someone else. It was not done by them. And it wasn't even done by their staff a lot of time. A lot of this time, this is done by House or Senate research. So now, the most important one of them all, I would argue, is the friendship with lawmakers, right? If I can get somebody to vote for something, then there we go, right? You know, when President Obama was in office, he got, I mean, cash for clunkers, I thought was a pretty good thing, right? You know, let's go turn in an old car and get a new one. Let's see if we can help the car industry. I don't know, right? But all in all, it's not like it was popular with everybody, right? But a lot of these things were not popular with with everybody that President Obama was passing, but he was somehow getting it passed. And how was he getting it passed? Because of Joe Biden. Because Joe Biden had relationships and he had these long time relationships since the 1980s with these members of Congress. And he was able to go there and convince them to vote for certain things that they probably didn't want to vote for, but they owed him a favor or something like that, right? And so he went there, he convinced them to vote for things, and he was able to get them to vote for things. Even Obama's health care plan, that there was, you know, you could thank Biden for that. He was the one over there convincing the people to vote for this and working that out and helping out with deals to make people chair of this committee and that committee so that they can get that. This is Joe Biden, a very influential person, at least, you know, when it comes to the Senate and the House and things like that. Um, Look, these guys make $7,200 a year, $7,200 a year. That's some of y'all. That's 2 months rent for some of y'all, or 2.5 months rent for some of y'all, right? That's what they make. So when you see them putting forth these bills, a lot of times these bills are being put forth because they're creating a resume, right? Look, if you know, we had a guy, you know, from my city who, uh, who told me back in 2006 when I was working in the Senate. Yes, I'm gonna be leaving. He said I'm leaving. I'm not running for re-election. That's what he told me. And I said, "Oh, okay then." And he was like, "Yeah, because I'm gonna move to the Woodlands or Conroe or so. I forget exactly what it was." And we had a state representative who told me this, right? And he decided to come back, and I was like, I thought you weren't running. I thought you weren't coming back. He was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna do one more term and then I'm out of here." And when you look at his last term, he was passing all of these Texas windstorm insurance bills and stuff like that. And then he finally leaves, and he's a lobbyist for the Texas windstorm and you know insurance. So this dude is building a resume off of our backs, right? So you basically building a resume by giving these companies tax breaks and things like that, which ultimately means that we got to pay for it because nothing's free. I think we all understand that. And so with that being said, he is building his resume by giving out some freebies to a company that he wants to hire them. So he's making $7,200 at first, but now he's making six figures, right? If not more, because of what he's helped the company to get. So that's the one issue with that. It's a high turnover rate there. And you find this in state legislators that pay that underpay members of Congress or state legislators that have been that are being underpaid. They tend to pass a lot of bills to try to work for certain people and things like that.
So, Professor,
Uh-huh.
one question. So, on these legislators, members, because they only get 7,200 a year. So basically, when you're getting on chair, you were thinking how you're going to situate yourself with the law you're allowing to be passed so you can make money in the future.
Yeah, that's exactly what it seems like, right? They're like, how can I get more money? How can I make, what am I going to do? And the thing is, I don't know, Kathy, I'm sorry. Let me have a positive view of this, or be more optimistic or about this, or something like that. So maybe they aren't thinking that. Maybe they get there, and I've seen, and you see all these CEOs and all these guys walking around the Capitol and stuff. So maybe these guys go and approach and say, "Hey, Kathy, you know, this is a bill that we really want. If you ever leave, we got you. You can have a place with us." Because I know that you understand this, us and stuff like that, especially since you know everybody here and how everything goes, and you've really been a help to us. I mean, and you're thinking 7,200 a year. And so you're like, I like doing the Congress stuff, but I like to do it making more. So you get to still be up there at Congress talking to everybody, lobbying to people while making a whole lot of money. And maybe that's how they get there. Maybe they don't show up thinking at it, at first. I would hope. But just to add on to that, it's a one-party state. And when you're in a one-party state, the interest groups are powerful. We know who's going to win. Like, so I give you $5 million. I give you all that. And I say, okay, so here's $5 million that you can use in campaigning. You go give this to people, and you know that when you hand this money out, it's going to help you in the future. Now, we have the primary election where we choose the top Republican candidate who's going to battle the top Democratic candidate. And you are a corporation. Like, who are you going to give your money to? It's Texas. You're probably going to give it to the Republican candidate. Why? Because they're probably going to win. I can give money I can give $1 million to a Democrat. He might win. I don't know, but I know for a fact this is a one-party state, and in a one-party state, I am here battling to see who's going to be the top Republican in this state, so I can hand money to them, and then these people will be able to help me out later. So a lot of stuff that I'm talking about are Republican candidates because or politicians, because we are in a one party state. And, it's almost a guarantee that you're going to win. That's essentially what it is. When political parties are strong, interest groups are weak because I don't know who I'm gonna give my money to. I might give my money to the Democrat. I might give my money to the Republican candidate. I don't really know who's gonna win. Or as they call them, late train donations. I'll just give it to somebody after the election, right? But all in all, you have to decide who to give your money to. And in one party state, we all believe we can know. If I ask you all next June, who do you think is going to win these races? And I give you a list, you're probably going on that list, putting R's next to every one of your choices. saying this person gonna win, this person gonna win, this person gonna win. Um, da da da. Oh, I do want to mention something here, which you don't have to write. This is not something that you need to write down, but I do want to tell you that. Look, these guys here can campaign for you and put out things and do these ads in the media, right? Which is a big deal, right? They can put ads in the media to hurt you. They can put ads in the media to help you. So you just have to be careful about this. And the interesting thing with this is that, so let's just say that I'm running, so I'm running against, I'm sorry, Clark. So I'm running against Clark, right? And Clark is like, Clark is going at me, right, in these ads. And they're like, well, Andre is running a positive campaign and Clark is not. And Clark is like, he is not running a positive campaign, man. He's attacking me. And they're like, I haven't seen any ads of Andre attacking you. And Clark is like, so that interest group there called Eagles, American, Eagle Star or whatever, that ad that keeps running against me, that's his super PAC. And when they talk to me, I'm like, look, that's not my super PAC. That's a super PAC that's run by a buddy of mine. I have no, I have no control over that super PAC. Right? We don't even talk about that. You know, and Clark is like, they are together at times. I'm clear. Almost certain they're talking. No, I don't talk about super PAC. He just that's them, right? So I'm just attacking him with all these things. So we saw this with John Kerry. Like John Kerry goes, saves some people in Vietnam. These guys come in and testify and say, "Look, he helped. He saved us, man. It's freaking crazy." So they gave him, some awards and I mean some medals or whatever. Um, and then in 2004, he ran for office. They're like, man, he didn't help nobody. So it was, it's not funny, but it is kind of funny. And then they came out a Swift boat ad. They're like, man, he ain't even helped nobody. He's lying. And they're like, but you're on record saying he helped. That's why he got the medal in the first place. Yeah, I was just messing with y'all. He ain't did nothing for us, right? And he got a Swift boated, right? And you can just do that and like George W. Bush was like, I have no control over that, right? I'm just here. I'm always down for any hero and stuff, but I think people should be honest about anything that they've done in war and stuff. But, you know, I just want to thank everybody for their service. They're like, man, you part of this, right? And that Swift boat people were just going at John Kerry, even though you know that they were clearly working with George W. Bush. But that's what interest groups can actually do for you. They can run these attack ads and allow for you to keep a positive one, right?
So did I win or did you win?
Well, you still won. You were you,
A Republican,
you were the
libertarian.
Republican candidate, but it was
I'm actually
but
a
it was still
libertarian,
positive. No,
so I'll be the first libertarian.
you're the first libertarian. There we go, Joe. Yeah. So, oh man, that's funny because the football player who ran last time looks like he's running again. He has positive numbers, and his numbers are good, and people love the guy. He. I don't see him winning. I don't see him winning at all. But he's coming back for another race. It looks like I forget the guy's name who just ran against Ted Cruz. So we'll see how that turns out for him.
Colin Allred.
There we go. Allred, that's his name. Colin Allred is funny. He does not hang out with Democrats. He is steering clear of all of them, So he's, which might work if that works for him. It will only work because the other candidates on the other side are fighting each other and beating each other up enough to help him. So, um, a lobbyist. This is what you'll need to know for, so this might be one of your choices, right? Lobbyist, right? A lobbyist is a person who directly contacts public officials to influence their decisions, right? So basically, a lobbyist is just someone trying is like a car salesman, right? He's trying to get you to buy something. He's trying to get you to buy into an idea. He's trying to get you to get something and things like that. And hopefully having relationships with folks will kind of help you to will help to convince them to vote for something or put something, in effect and things like that. And this is where if you ever pay attention to Texas, I mean, it's not just Texas, but if you pay attention to Texas and our bills and how the bills are being made, like these interest groups have that power. It'll be something like we want to, offer free, asthma medication, or asthma medication will be made available at all schools, at all, public schools. And they're like, how much is this going to cost the state? Well, it'll cost the state like, you know, uh, uh, about $18 million or so, right? To just have asthma medication at every school. And then it'll be going through and somebody will just amend that thing and just add in some random thing like um, the first handgun will be half off, right? So now we have to build in some money to pay for someone's first handgun, right? Um, and they just amend it and just attach it to the bill, which has nothing to do with that bill. And you see the power of interest groups with that, where they just add things to it and stuff like that. So it happens like that too. It's not always just an actual bill that's being written that says we want half off handguns and the state's going to pay for half of it. It's it is at times it could be I'm just going to add it to a bill that I know is going to pass because they want the kids to have asthma medicine. So. Um, okay. So let's take a look at Fair List 10, which will be on your exam, right? And first off, right, Madison wrote this, right? Madison says that you take in a greater variety of parties and interests, and you make it less probable that the majority of the whole will have a common motive to invade the rights of other citizens. So basically, what it says is you allow all these groups to get going and they will balance each other out because one group will not be able to override the other groups. Now Madison's, he mentions this and then he'll see the other part when he talks about a large over a small republic. This is the argument that's made by many where we had the 13 colonies and then we have a little, revolution or whatever. And now we are operating under this Articles of Confederation where the states, so the colonies felt like, hey, I'm operating on my own. I'm good. I don't need anyone telling me what to do. Fine. Let's have a revolution. Now I'm back to operating on my own again. So we get this new government, the Articles of Confederation, where they are back to operating on their own. And then they're like, hey, we have to fix this. Let's create this new document. And they create a new document, the Constitution. And with the Constitution, now they have to go and sell it. Right. And the folks who are in favor of states' rights are like, hey, man, look, we can just update and fix our current government, which is the Articles of Confederation. I don't like this Constitution, right? It has a king in it. They're like, that's not a king. It's a president. I don't care what you call it. I'm sure it's a king. And also, like, why can't we just have our state thing, right? Because each state, we're supposed to be operating on our own anyway, right? And Madison makes the argument. This is why you need a large country, right? Because look at Texas. The NRA is the most powerful interest group in Texas. The NRA is not the most powerful interest group in the country. And according to Madison, as Madison would say, look, NRA is going to win sometimes, the NRA is going to lose sometimes. Other companies are going to win, other companies are going to lose. It'll be competition. Unlike if it's just state by state. And if it's state to state, then one group is always going to win. And you don't want a nation like that, right? You want a nation where there's some competition there. And ultimately what he says, you allow all these groups to form, they will keep each other in check. All right. So here we go. This is what you need to know for your exam. It's written by Madison. Madison talks about two ways of curing a faction, right? He says, so this right here is the slide that you need to know, right? There are two methods of curing a faction. You can remove its causes or control its effects, right? And a faction is an interest group. So it's two methods to curing an interest group. So first we look at how to remove its causes, right? So we're going to look at removing its causes right here, as you can see. He says first, we can destroy liberty, which is essential to its existence. So we won't even let these things form. And since we won't let them form, then what are they going to do to us? Because interest groups won't even be around. And he was like, well, we can't do that because liberty is a core value. He was like, okay, cool, cool. So we can't take away his liberty. I know what we can do. We can make everyone have the same opinions and passions and views on everything. And since we all agree on everything, everything's good, right? He said, no, that too is impossible. So since we can't stop these groups from forming, and since we can't force everyone to have the same views and outlook, then we cannot truly remove its cause to cure a faction. We can only look at controlling its effect as the other way. And what does Madison offer up as a way of controlling its effects? Does anyone know? Well, he offers up the Madisonian principle of regulation, right? As we just looked at, right? So ultimately, if you go through this and you answer and you tell me he offers up the way to control this effect is by using the Madisonian principle of regulation, which you all just wrote down. If you just wrote this top part, the Madisonian principle of regulation, I will assume that you know what you're talking about. I mean, I'm going to assume it. All right. Now, you could also say a way to control its effects is to allow these groups to form and they would balance each other out, which is also the same thing as the Madisonian principle of regulation. Madison is 2 points. Its causes are 2 points. Controlling its effects is 4 points. That's your 10 points. Make sure you get all your points. Any questions about this? Uh, did everyone get it all written down? All right, cool. Um, you don't have to write this down or anything, but I do want to focus on this part right here. Positive and negative aspects of interest group. And I gotta tell you, the secret communication with officials, I've never, I mean, and I know I'm probably one of one. I've never really looked at secret communications as being a big deal. Like, like why do you need to know everything that people are talking about in government, right? I don't like the secret communication. Um, I'm sorry, I don't like people grandstanding and stuff because folks are looking, right? Everybody's looking and watching and stuff like that. And so all of a sudden we're gonna grandstand and everything else. And I just think it's just best um to just go in the room, work it out, and come out of that room with an answer, no matter what it is. And I just think it works better like that. But you know, I know a lot of people that they don't truly agree with that, but it's all good. These are examples of different kinds of interest group that you will find in your textbook, things like that, the non-economic, economic mixed groups, and things like that. Um, and here's a slide: the day in the life um, of a legislator. And I just wanted you to see it, right? How much time they spend with interest groups, right? Show up, you pray, you meet with an interest group so you can get some free food there. You got to go hang out in the house so people will see you there on the floor of the house. And let's take a lunch with an interest group. Let's go do something fun with the kids, meet with an interest group. Let's go have dinner with an interest group. And let's meet with another interest group. And how about we finish out our day with another one? So these are the kind of things that happen. And you see this, right? It happens all the time where they're meeting with interest group after interest group after interest group. Um, you should never have to pay for food because the interest groups are always bringing them, always bringing it, because they want you to vote for certain things, right? As I mentioned before, right? The $500 plates that you're paying for so that you can get contracts for certain things. Well, it continues once you get in office and people want things from you. That's why people spend all that money on these races. And you're thinking you're only getting paid X amount of dollars. Why are you spending so much in that race? Because that race is worth a lot more than $7,200. Okay. Um, so you guys will need to look this up on your own. Please don't ask for any answers or any of this, because you know, hey, I'm giving you something. So this here could be helpful for you all as you head your way to take the exam, as you see in the chat uh, box there. Just wanted to get that to you all. You can copy and paste that somewhere. Keep it to so you can look through it and things like that. Um, exactly, exactly, Kathy. I do feel bad for the folks, who live in like El Paso and in the Panhandle because they have to pay for hotel stay. If you live right here in Austin, then you can just drive there and come on back home, and you don't have to pay for that extra money either in hotel stay as well. So, um, direct ways of influencing things, right? You can sue. Um, you can protest, right? You can go and serve on these boards and things. Um, and the indirect way is socializing with public officials and educating people and things like that. The socializing with folks is helpful at times. It's kind of weird. It looks shady as well, but it does happen. It happens a lot, right? And it's kind of hard to know, right? I remember. Like a lot of people, a lot of politicians have argued, these aren't, the interest groups aren't convincing me. These are my views, right? So it's hard to know at times, but there we go. If you look here to the right side of that, you have the different kinds of groups, right? As I mentioned, we have our economic group, our non-economic groups, and our mixed groups, right? And these groups are very important groups because the economic one, right? These are like business, professions, education, local government, these kinds of things like that. And these guys are here seeking subsidies to avoid regulations. They want government contracts, clearly. Um, Sometimes they're looking for increasing the salaries and benefits for their employees. Non-economic groups are seeking the betterment of society, and these mixed groups are pursuing goals that have clear economic effects, um, and pursuing social equality and economic goals and things like that. So you'll see this from all these different groups that are trying to do things. They have a goal and they're trying to achieve that goal. And a lot of times it has to do with just helping out whatever cause that they claim to represent. All right. So some of this stuff is review. So we got 150 years or so, or at least over 150 years of one party system. In Texas, our political parties are weak, so the interest groups are strong. So you might find a state like Indiana that has strong political parties, meaning it's a purple state, meaning that sometimes it can go red, sometimes it can go blue. That means that the interest groups are not as strong, right? Because we know that states with two-party competition have weak interest groups. And we also understand Texas has transitioned from a conservative Democratic Party to a conservative Republican Party. And um, we talked about the high turnover in the legislator and things like that. Um, okay, the media. The media is important. Remember this: the media is essential to the survival of a democratic type of a system, and the media is supposed to be an enemy of corruption, conflict of interest, and other unethical conduct. So this is supposed to be the job of the media, right? To be an enemy of all this here and to actually, to actually do these things here and things like that. So hopefully we keep that in mind that the media is supposed to be that. Although we don't really have a huge media here in Texas, right? We have the Texas Tribune and some newspapers in the city newspapers that are pretty big or whatever. But all in all, the media here in Texas is not as big as it doesn't really match the size of the state, right? Like you would see in California or New York. Okay, so everybody, you see the review that I put in there, right? Or not a review, a study guide or something, however you want to look at that.
Oh no, I haven't seen it. You put it on Blackboard?
Yeah, I put it in the chat in
Oh, right now. Okay.
the message box. It was there already. I'll have to do it again.
Okay. Then.
Um, let me see. I do want to let's see if we can get it. Okay, I want to take a look at this, right? Well, not that. I want to take a look at this. Um, so what did y'all think of the article? To you all who saw it, I do want to just yeah. What did y'all think of the article? Anybody who read it? I'm assuming you read. Um, enlightened. You thought it was
It was
great, huh?
It was informative.
The interesting part of this, right, is that it's I believe a, a student told me that a student told me that quoting that I'm propping up Rick Perry too much, right? And things like that. You know what I mean? But I'll tell you, like one of the things that Rick Perry did, right? He was like, "Look, man, if you are a criminal, then we want to make sure that you get the full extent of the law, and we want you prosecuted to the fullest extent, right? But if you're not, if you're not guilty, you should not be locked up, right? And the crazy thing about this, right? Well, the craziest part of it, of the whole thing, is Thurgood Marshall Jr., right? I know how I grew up, um, and and my son is not growing up, and my children are not growing up how I grew up. How about that? My children are growing up in a whole different light and things like that. They don't have to live in, a neighborhood that I grew up in and live the kind of life that I lived in. And, you know, I mean, because, yeah, because, that I came up in a whole different kind of thing. And you wonder, if struggling or growing up a hard life makes you a better person than growing up a privileged life. You know what I mean? And I believe that you can still be decent with a privileged life, right? And I'm not gonna call this man. I'm not gonna say the guy is indecent, but who would have thought that Thurgood Marshall, the Brown versus Board of Education guy, the guy who championed this here, who went after prisons, the prison industrial complex and things like this, would have a son who would chair, who would be part of something like this. And private prisons is what it is. And this is the part that stands out the most, right? Of all of it. This is the biggest part. Hopefully you all can see it. They have a written occupancy guarantee into their contract, requiring states to pay a fee if they cannot provide a certain number of inmates. Right? This thing, it was guaranteed to be 96% full. And I just want you to think about it like this here. We had, I'm sure you all heard about the judge in San Antonio, years ago, or whatever, who was just locking people up because of the quotas, right? And they just locking up people because they have to, or the state's going to have to pay. And these private prisons locking up people, it's just not cool and stuff, just so that you can, just so you can meet a quota, right? And we see these lawsuits, right? Most of these things clearly by the inmates, um, the conditions of the prisons, the injuries, the lack of medical care, right? And all these things here. So it's a lot of stuff that's going on here. And I just wanted you all to see that, when that all of our prisons are not private, right? We don't have all of our prisons are not that way. And I don't think that our prisons are, the greatest place to be. But I will say that when they're state run, at least you get a feel as, well, at least I get a feel. I'll just say me, right? But I think other people would agree with me, right? We get a feel that there's some oversight there. That a lot of these people are there because they need to be there. And when it becomes these private prisons that have a quota, it makes you question how many of them probably would not be there if there weren't those quotas. You know what I mean? And that's the part I think that stands out mostly to me with this. All right. So, but these interest groups have lots of influence. And the fact that they're able to get into the government to convince the government to put these things into place is a big deal, I think. All right. Houston, have you ever been to Houston, right? Houston is an amazing city. Houston is packed with people. I mean, there are so many people in Houston. But I tell you, that when you're there, you feel kind of good about being down there in the Houston area, just the entire area, because it's not like Austin, right, where you're stuck on one road, and anytime they open up a new road, it's a private company. Some interest group has shown up and convinced the city council or whoever to go along with this and allow them to build a road that you got to pay for to be on. Yes, Houston has their toll roads, but Houston has a lot of different ways to get places and lots of free roads, right? And I've always been about, if the public is paying for something, then we should have some free roads. And even with the toll roads, it's the same way. If enough people aren't going on those roads and paying that company, then the city and the state is going to have to offset that cost and pay them. So we see that built into these contracts as well, into these deals as well, right? Instead of just making it a free road. Think about all the toll roads in Austin. What if they're all free? Or most of them were free? It'd be a whole different thing, right? We have in Katy, we have like a 12 lane. Have you seen the 12 lane? Have you been down to Houston? Have you been to Houston and you hit Katy? They have like 12 lanes. They have like 12 lanes in one area. It's one of the most amazing things ever. Clark, you seen this thing? This thing's amazing, right? It opens up and you're like, what is this? It feels like you're in a whole nother world, right?
Reminds me of
And
the German Autobahn.
oh, is that how it is over
It
there?
is really, yeah. The Autobahn is like that for most of the country, and it's like they just based it straight on that. Yeah, it's wonderful.
It's freaking
But
crazy.
also never had that.
It's crazy. And then they have a nerve to have one little toll road area there, like somebody's going to use it. We don't need it. It's open. You know, it's,
Just forget it and let it die.
it's just there, right? So, thank you, Brianna. I guess Dallas has the same thing, and you see that, and I'm all for, like, I'm like this here. If I'm gonna pay money for something, let me pay money that I'm gonna benefit from, right? And you know, I'll pay money for 12 lanes. I'll pay money for 8 lanes or something like that, right? So that we can just move, right? And if you want a lane in the middle that goes 80 miles per hour and I only have to go 65, but we can keep moving at 6 lanes. I mean, 6 lanes on each side, I'm down with that as well, right? But we're not seeing that here. And we don't see that with the state as well. They're always looking to allow interest groups to infiltrate things. And we go along with it because we think it's going to be helpful in the future. We have to start looking at this and start to realize that there are some things that probably should not be privatized, all the time, at least most of the time, or half of the time, right? There's nothing wrong with having the toll road. I like the options, but mm-mm, we need to be free. Um, and just like the prisons, there's nothing wrong with a private prison, but we shouldn't have a quota on there, right? It's a business. I believe that let the free market, you believe in the free market? There we go. So
Yeah, so people are aware of the potential of corruption, so you can vote appropriately. And with the toll roads, I feel that I don't mind paying the money. Is that it just here in Austin feels so forceful. It's like they force you to, and that's why I don't get on it. Like 10% if I have to, just because of that feeling that is forceful, and they forced it into the people that live here. And if you really want to assist traffic, just build it, just open it up for the citizens. They will be happier, less accident, less road rage.
hey, I agree. I agree. There we go. Less road rage. I agree. And if y'all do get a chance to go down to Houston, you can just drive to Katy and turn around and come back so you can see it. It's one of the most amazing things ever. It's it's crazy. You'd love it if you saw that. You'd wonder, why do those, why do those people have that and we don't? It's very
It,
nice.
as big as Houston is, it's fourth largest city in America. That's a massive city. The traffic there, having been through and been all over that part of Texas, is the people's driving is so much better. And people in Houston are like, oh no, 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 it is. You come up to Austin, and oh man, these people, I live in Austin. These people, it's their driving too. They drive, you got an 80 mile an hour on a toll, and some guys on there doing 45. You're like,
Mhm.
man, why you take the toll and pay the money to do 45 miles an hour? And it, oh man, it's people. It's people too. Because in Houston, they don't tolerate that. You learn to drive, you don't get on the road in Houston. They'll
Yes.
help you off.
Yeah, I'm from that area. That's where I learned how to drive. And, having 2 car lanes between each car is not allowed in Houston. You will move up closer. Yeah, or you'll move over and take the feeder. You'll move off and take the feeder road because we're not, yeah, it doesn't work like that. Um, Thank you all. See you next Tuesday. Please get the exam done. Please look over the study guide first and kind of go with that. And I think that if you do all this, I think it'll help. It'll help you. Remember, there are two Republican factions: religious and economic. So and you know, just make sure that you answer the answer in its entirety. There's a difference between the functions of political party and the 3 characteristics of political party. So don't get those mixed up either. So, all right. Thank
Okay,
y'all very much.
thank you.
All right. Thank y'all.
Have a good week.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right, you too.